Part 1. The sky above Earth was unusually quiet that morning, a rare calm before the storm. People went about their lives as they always did, commuters rushing to work, children heading to school, and farmers tending to their fields. No one noticed the faint shimmer in the atmosphere at first. But then it happened. A massive shadow loomed over the planet, blotting out the sun in certain regions. It wasn't clouds or some natural phenomenon. It was something far more extraordinary. A colossal alien ship descended into Earth's orbit, its size dwarfing anything humanity had ever seen. The vessel stretched across the horizon, an endless expanse of metallic gray with glowing blue veins. Running through its surface like arteries, its design was sleek, yet menacing, resembling a predator poised to strike. For a moment, the entire world held its breath. News outlets scrambled to cover the event, broadcasting live footage of the ship from every angle imaginable. Social media erupted with panic, excitement, and disbelief. Was this salvation or destruction? Governments around the globe convened emergency meetings within minutes. Military bases were put on high alert, fighter jets scrambled into the skies, and satellites trained their lenses on the mysterious visitor. Scientists debated whether the ship carried benevolent explorers or hostile invaders. One thing was certain: humanity couldn't ignore this arrival. Among those called upon to address the situation was Dr. Ryan Carter, a linguist who specialized in xenolinguistics, the study of alien languages. Ryan had spent years preparing for first contact scenarios, though he never imagined it would actually happen during his lifetime. His expertise lay in deciphering patterns in unknown communication methods, from ancient hieroglyphs to theoretical extraterrestrial signals. Now, all eyes were on him. Ryan stood inside a secure command center, surrounded by monitors displaying real-time data streaming in from observatories and space stations. He adjusted his glasses nervously, glancing at Lieutenant Laura Hayes, who stood nearby. Laura was a no-nonsense military officer tasked with overseeing security protocols during this unprecedented crisis. Her sharp features and disciplined demeanor commanded respect. "Even in such chaotic circumstances, they're trying to communicate," said one of the technicians, pointing to a screen filled with strange symbols flashing rhythmically. "Not Morse code, but there's definitely structure here." Ryan leaned closer, studying the sequence of shapes and colors appearing on the display. They reminded him of pictographs, simple images used to convey meaning, but these were far more complex. Each symbol seemed to pulse with energy, shifting slightly as if alive. Whatever language the aliens spoke, it was unlike anything recorded in human history. "Let me see if I can isolate a pattern," Ryan muttered, pulling up his laptop. He began typing furiously, feeding the data into an advanced AI program designed to analyze unknown linguistic structures. Minutes ticked by as the room fell silent, except for the hum of computers and the occasional murmur of voices outside. Meanwhile, Laura paced back and forth, her mind racing with possibilities. She knew better than anyone that time was critical. If these aliens intended harm, humanity needed to act fast. But if they sought peaceful interaction, miscommunication could lead to disaster. Every decision carried weighty consequences. Finally, Ryan looked up from his screen, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "I think I've got something," he announced. "These symbols appear to represent actions, specifically hunting behaviors." "Hunting?" Laura frowned, stepping closer. "What kind of hunting?" Ryan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "From what I can tell, they're describing themselves as predators. And based on the context, they seem to view us as prey." The room grew deathly quiet. Everyone exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of Ryan's statement sinking in. Humanity had long speculated about encountering intelligent life beyond Earth, but no one had anticipated being treated as quarry in a cosmic game of survival. Laura clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay composed. "Are you sure about this?" "Not definitive," Ryan admitted, "but the imagery is consistent with predatory behavior. Look." He pointed to a series of symbols depicting creatures chasing others, culminating in what appeared to be a kill. If we don't proceed carefully, we might trigger exactly what they're expecting. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared. Throughout the facility, technicians shouted updates as new information flooded in. The alien ship had deployed smaller vessels, each descending toward Earth's surface at alarming speeds. Panic rippled through the command center, but Laura quickly took charge. "Everyone, focus," she barked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to understand their intentions before reacting. Ryan, keep working on the translation. Everyone else, prepare for potential engagement." As the team sprang into action, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the edge of something monumental. Whether it ended in cooperation or catastrophe depended entirely on how well humanity could navigate this uncharted territory. One thing was clear: explaining galactic predators wouldn't be easy, not when the stakes involved the survival of the human race. Outside, people watched in awe and terror as the smaller ships descended, their sleek forms casting eerie shadows. Over cities and landscapes, some prayed, others fled, but most simply stared upward, powerless against forces beyond comprehension. Humanity's future now rested in the hands of those few individuals willing to face the unknown head-on. The alien ships descended in perfect formation, their sleek designs slicing through the atmosphere with eerie precision. Each vessel emitted a low hum that resonated deep within the chests of those who stood below, watching in awe and fear. Humanity had never seen anything like a technology so advanced it seemed almost magical. The smaller crafts landed softly on predetermined sites across the globe, chosen perhaps by careful calculation or sheer coincidence. No one knew for sure. At one such site, a vast desert plain near New Mexico, the largest of the alien ships, touched down. Its surface shimmered faintly under the sun, as if alive, pulsing with energy. Soldiers from nearby military bases surrounded the area, armed to the teeth but visibly uneasy. Lieutenant Laura Hayes stood at the forefront, her posture rigid despite the weight of the situation pressing down on her shoulders. Behind her, scientists and technicians worked frantically, setting up equipment to monitor every move the aliens made. Minutes passed, and then an opening appeared along the side of the ship. A group of 3 towering figures emerged, their forms unlike anything anyone had ever imagined. They were insectoid, standing nearly 10 feet tall, with exoskeletons that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their bodies were segmented, adorned with intricate patterns that glowed faintly in shades of blue and green. Multiple limbs extended from their torsos, some ending in claw-like appendages, while others bore delicate, almost human-like hands. Their faces, if they could be called that, were dominated by large, multifaceted eyes that reflected light like prisms. The creatures moved slowly, deliberately, as though savoring the moment. Every step they took sent tremors rippling through the ground beneath them. The humans watched, frozen in place, unsure whether to attack, retreat, or simply wait. Laura raised a hand, signaling her troops to hold their positions. She didn't want to provoke these beings, not yet. It's not until she understood what they wanted. Dr. Ryan Carter stepped forward cautiously, his laptop clutched tightly in his hands. He was flanked by 2 assistants carrying portable translation devices designed to analyze any sounds or signals the aliens might emit. Ryan's heart raced, but he forced himself to focus. This was why he had dedicated his life to xenolinguistics, to bridge the gap between humanity and whatever lay beyond the stars. One of the aliens tilted its head slightly, studying the assembled humans with what seemed like detached curiosity. Then, without warning, it raised one of its clawed arms and gestured toward the sky. A series of low-frequency hums filled the air, accompanied by flashes of light emanating from the glowing patterns on its body. The sound was strange, almost musical, yet undeniably alien. It sent shivers down everyone's spines. Ryan adjusted the settings on his laptop, feeding the data into the AI program he had been using earlier. The machine whirred softly as it processed the information, searching for patterns or meanings hidden within the alien communication. Seconds stretched into minutes, and the tension in the air grew thicker with each passing second. Finally, Ryan looked up, his expression tense but determined. "It's not just random noise," he said, addressing Laura and the others around. There's a structure here, patterns that suggest intent. I think they're trying to convey something." "What are they saying?" Laura asked, her voice steady, despite the knot forming in her stomach. "They're describing scenarios," Ryan replied, choosing his words carefully. "Hunting grounds, prey, pursuit. It's similar to what we saw earlier, but more detailed. Now they're emphasizing dominance." Laura frowned, her mind racing. "Dominance over what?" U.S. Ryan hesitated before nodding. "That's my interpretation. But there's more. There's also a sense of evaluation, like they're testing us." "Testing us," Laura echoed, her tone sharp. "For what?" Before Ryan could answer, another hum erupted from the lead alien. This time, it pointed directly at the assembled humans, its multifaceted eyes locking onto them with unnerving intensity. The gesture was unmistakable. They were being singled out. Whether as subjects of interest or targets remained unclear, Laura tightened her grip on her rifle, though she kept it lowered for now. She glanced at Ryan, silently urging him to continue decoding the message. Meanwhile, the other two aliens began moving around the perimeter of the landing site, inspecting the soldiers and scientists with clinical detachment. Their movements were fluid, almost hypnotic, and utterly devoid of emotion. As the standoff continued, one of the aliens paused. Near a group of technicians operating monitoring equipment, it extended one of its clawed limbs, brushing it lightly against a piece of machinery. Sparks flew as the device short-circuited instantly, leaving the technicians scrambling to salvage their work. The alien retracted its limb, seemingly uninterested. In the chaos it had caused, Ryan noticed this interaction and quickly jotted down notes on his laptop. "They're probing us," he whispered to Laura. "Not just linguistically, but technologically too. They're assessing our capabilities." Laura nodded grimly, and finding us lacking. Despite the growing unease, Ryan pressed on with his analysis. The AI continued to decode fragments of the alien communication, piecing together a clearer picture of their intentions. What emerged was both fascinating and terrifying. The aliens viewed themselves as apex predators, travelers who sought out new worlds to challenge their skills. Earth, it seemed, had become their latest hunting ground. But there was a twist, one that complicated matters even further. According to the decoded messages, the aliens weren't merely interested in killing for sport. They believed in a kind of natural selection. If humanity proved worthy, they would spare the species. If not, extinction awaited. "This isn't just about survival," Ryan explained to Laura during a brief lull in the exchange. "It's about proving ourselves. If we can match their cunning, their strength, maybe we stand a chance." Laura let out a bitter laugh. "Match them? Look at them. They're faster, stronger, and smarter than anything we've got. Why are we supposed to compete?" "We adapt," Ryan said firmly. "We use our brains, our creativity. It's always been humanity's greatest weapon." Laura wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her resolve. Still, she couldn't afford to give up when billions of lives depended on her decisions. Turning back to the aliens, she signaled for her team to remain calm and avoid making any sudden moves. For now, diplomacy, or whatever passed for. It with these beings was their only option. The lead alien, apparently satisfied with its initial assessment, turned back toward its companions and emitted a series of clicks and chirps. Whatever it said prompted the trio to take a collective step backward, retreating slightly toward their ship. Then, in unison, they raised their arms once more, projecting a final burst of light and sound before turning away entirely. Ryan scrambled to capture the last transmission, his fingers flying across the keyboard. When the data finally stabilized, he read the results aloud, his voice tinged with both relief and dread. "They're giving us time," he said. "Time to prepare. They'll return soon, and when they do, they expect a fight." Laura exhaled sharply, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. Time wasn't much of a gift when facing opponents like these. But it was all they had, and they would have to make the most of it as the alien ships lifted off the ground and disappeared back into the sky. The humans left behind stared after them in stunned silence. The encounter had been brief, yet its implications were monumental. Humanity now faced a trial unlike any other, a test of will, ingenuity, and sheer determination. And whether they succeeded or failed, nothing would ever be the same again. The days following the alien encounter passed in a blur of activity. Governments around the world worked tirelessly to prepare for what was coming next. Military bases buzzed with urgency as soldiers trained for scenarios no one truly understood. Scientists and engineers collaborated on projects that once seemed like science fiction, hoping to level the playing field against an enemy whose technology was centuries ahead of humanity's. But despite the flurry of effort, fear lingered. In the air, a quiet undercurrent of dread that no amount of preparation could fully erase. Dr. Ryan Carter spent nearly every waking moment analyzing the data collected during the aliens' brief visit. His small office became a chaotic mess of scribbled notes, coffee cups, and glowing computer screens. The AI program he relied on churned through endless streams of information, searching for patterns or weaknesses in the Virax behavior. Laura Hayes stopped by frequently, updating him on military strategies, while also seeking guidance based on his findings. Their partnership had become crucial. Blending intellectual insight with tactical expertise, we need more than just translations, Laura said one evening, leaning against the doorframe of Ryan's office. We need to understand how they think, how they fight. Ryan nodded absently, his eyes glued to the screen in front of him. I've been looking into that. Based on their communication, they view themselves as hunters epics predators who thrive on challenges. They respect strength, cunning, and adaptability. So we give them what they want, Laura replied, crossing her arms. Show them we're not easy prey. It's not that simple, Ryan countered. They're not just testing our physical abilities. This is psychological warfare. If we panic or make mistakes, they'll exploit it. We have to stay calm and calculated. Laura sighed, rubbing her temples. Easier said than done when you're facing something that makes tanks look like toys. Ryan finally turned to face her, his expression serious. That's why we need unconventional tactics. Conventional weapons won't work against their energy shields and advanced tech. We need to think outside the box. It was then that Ethan Cole entered the picture. A rugged survivalist with a reputation for thriving in the harshest environments. Ethan had been recruited after Laura remembered reading about his exploits in remote wilderness areas. He wasn't a soldier in the traditional sense, but his skills were unmatched when it came to outsmarting danger. Tall and lean, with sun-weathered skin and sharp green eyes, Ethan carried himself with quiet confidence. When he walked into the command center for the first time, his presence commanded attention without a word being spoken. Lieutenant Hayes, Ethan greeted, shaking her hand firmly. You asked for someone who knows how to survive against impossible odds. Here I am. Laura studied him for a moment before nodding. Good, because we're going to need every advantage we can get. Over the next few days, Ethan worked closely with both Ryan and Laura, sharing insights gleaned from years of living off the land and evading threats. He explained the mindset of predators, the precision, the instinctual drive. To hunt and how understanding these traits could help humans anticipate the Virax moves. His lessons weren't limited to theory. He took groups of soldiers into simulated combat zones, teaching them guerrilla tactics designed to confuse and overwhelm superior forces. You don't take them head on, Ethan instructed during one training session. You hit them where they least expect it. Use the environment to your advantage. Make them doubt themselves. The soldiers listened intently, absorbing every word. Many had never encountered such unorthodox methods, but desperation drove them to embrace anything that might improve their chances. As they practiced ambushes, decoys, and stealth maneuvers, a glimmer of hope began to emerge. Perhaps humanity wasn't entirely powerless after all. Meanwhile, Ryan continued his linguistic research, delving deeper into the Virax language and culture. He discovered recurring themes in their communication references to ancient hunts, tales of triumph over formidable foes, and warnings about certain creatures that seemed to evoke unease. One particular symbol appeared repeatedly, a jagged, striped pattern that Ryan couldn't quite place at first. It didn't resemble any known animal. yet it carried a weighty significance in the Virak's messages. Curious. Ryan brought the symbol to Ethan during a break in training. "Ever seen anything like this?" he asked, showing him a rendering of the design on his laptop. Ethan squinted at the image, his brow furrowing. "Looks kind of like stripes." "Exactly," Ryan said. "But why would stripes matter so much to them? What does it mean?" Ethan shrugged. "Could be anything. Maybe it represents some kind of predator they're scared of." Ryan mulled over the idea, his mind racing with possibilities. If we could figure out what it means, maybe we could use it against them? Laura overheard their conversation and joined in. "How do we even start figuring that out? We don't have time for guesswork." Ryan hesitated, then offered a suggestion. "Maybe we ask someone who knows about predators, someone familiar with Earth's wildlife." That someone turned out to be Dr. Emily Dawson, a zoologist specializing in big cats. Though initially reluctant to leave her research in Africa, Emily agreed to assist once she learned the stakes. She arrived at the command center within hours, her enthusiasm tempered by the gravity of the situation. When Ryan showed her the striped symbol, her eyes widened in recognition. "This looks like tiger markings," she said confidently. "Big cats with bold stripe stickers are apex predators here on Earth. Could they be referencing something similar?" Ryan exchanged a glance with Laura. "Tigers. Why would aliens care about tigers?" Emily shrugged. Maybe they encountered them somewhere else. Or maybe they're afraid of them. The notion seemed far-fetched, but Ryan decided to explore it further. Using Emily's expertise, he cross-referenced tiger behavior with the Virak's hunting patterns. Slowly, a theory began to form. Tigers were solitary hunters, relying on stealth and surprise to take down prey much larger than themselves. Their presence inspired fear in other animals, often causing entire ecosystems to shift in response. If the Virak viewed tigers or something like them as a threat, it could explain their obsession with dominance and control. Armed with this new perspective, Ryan proposed an experiment. What if we simulate tiger-like threats, use holograms, sounds, anything to mimic their behavior? If the Virak react strongly enough, we might be able to gain leverage. Laura considered the idea carefully. It's risky. If they realize we're bluffing, things could escalate quickly. But if it works, Ethan interjected, it could buy us time, maybe even throw them off balance. After much deliberation, the team decided to move forward with the plan. Engineers worked around the clock to develop portable holographic projectors capable of creating lifelike illusions of prowling tigers. Sound engineers recorded roars and growls, layering them into chilling audio tracks. Everything was designed to create the impression of a deadly predator lurking nearby. The first test took place near the original landing site in New Mexico. Soldiers set up the equipment under cover of darkness, positioning the holograms strategically around the area. As dawn broke, the illusion came to life. Ghostly figures of massive striped cats slinked silently across the desert floor, their movements fluid and menacing. Hidden speakers broadcast deep guttural growls that reverberated through the still morning air. When the Virak ships returned later that day, the reaction was immediate. The lead alien froze mid-step, its multifaceted eyes darting toward the source of the disturbance. Its companions followed suit, emitting low hums that sounded almost like alarm calls. For several tense moments, they scanned the area. Clearly unsettled by the presence of the phantom predators, they're spooked. Laura whispered, watching from a safe distance. This might actually work. But the relief was short-lived. One of the Virak approached cautiously, extending a clawed limb toward one of the holograms. The illusion flickered slightly under the scrutiny, revealing its artificial nature. Realizing the deception, the alien let out a piercing screech that echoed across the landscape. The trio retreated back toward their ship, their earlier curiosity replaced by palpable anger. As the ships ascended into the sky, Ryan turned to Laura, his expression grim. "We got lucky this time. Next time, they'll be ready." Laura nodded, her jaw tightening. "Then we'd better come up with something better. Fast." Despite the setback, The experiment provided valuable insight. The Virax reaction confirmed Ryan's theory they harbored a deep-seated fear tied to striped predators. Understanding this weakness gave humanity a potential edge, though exploiting it safely remained a challenge. With time running out, the team doubled down on their efforts, refining their tactics and preparing for whatever came next. In the quiet moments between planning sessions, Ryan found himself reflecting on the enormity of the task ahead. Humanity had always dreamed of meeting intelligent life beyond Earth, but no one had imagined it would unfold like this, a battle for survival against beings who saw them as little more than prey. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, there was also resilience. People from all walks of life were coming together, united by a shared determination to protect their home, and perhaps, Ryan thought, that unity would prove to be humanity's greatest weapon of all. The aftermath of the failed hologram experiment left the team feeling a mix of frustration and urgency. While they had successfully provoked a reaction from the Virac, it wasn't enough to tilt the scales in humanity's favor. The aliens' response in Gar rather than fear highlighted just how precarious their situation was. If anything, the encounter had only deepened the mystery surrounding the Virac's fixation on striped predators. What exactly about tigers or creatures resembling them stirred such a visceral reaction? And more importantly, could this knowledge be turned into a weapon? Dr. Ryan Carter couldn't shake the thought as he pored over the data once again. His desk was cluttered with papers, notes scribbled hastily during meetings, and printouts of alien symbols glowing faintly under the dim light of his office lamp. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples as exhaustion crept up on him. It had been days since he'd slept properly, but sleep felt like a luxury he couldn't afford, not when every second might bring the Virac back. Laura. Hayes knocked lightly before stepping inside, her usual composed demeanor tinged with concern. "Still digging?" she asked, glancing at the mess around him. Ryan nodded. "There's something here we're missing. Something big." "What makes you say that?" He gestured toward the screen displaying the jagged striped pattern. "This symbol keeps showing up in their language, always tied to hunting scenarios. But it's not just decorative, it's meaningful. Like it represents an event or, I don't know, trauma." "Trauma?" Laura raised an eyebrow. "You think these aliens have PTSD from tigers?" "I'm serious," Ryan said, sitting up straighter. "Think about it. Tigers are apex predators even among Earth's wildlife. They're stealthy, solitary, and incredibly dangerous. The Virac encountered something similar in their past. Tan-Law Stick could explain their obsession with proving dominance now." Laura crossed her arms, considering the idea. "Even if that's true, how does it help us? We can't exactly summon real tigers to fight for us." "No," Ryan admitted, "but maybe we don't need to. If we can figure out what triggered their fear originally, we can use that against them, make them believe we're connected to whatever scared them before." Before Laura could respond, Ethan Cole appeared in the doorway, his face grim. "We've got trouble," he said without preamble. "Okay, reports are coming in from other landing sites. The Virac are testing defenses. Everywhere, attacking infrastructure, probing military bases. They're ramping things up." Ryan exchanged a worried glance with Laura. "They're done waiting." Ethan nodded. "Looks like it. Whatever patience they had is gone. We need to act fast." The trio convened in the command center, where updates streamed in from across the globe. Cities near alien landing zones reported strange phenomena, power grids failing, communication networks disrupted, and sightings of Virac drones patrolling urban areas. Each incident seemed calculated, designed to weaken humanity's ability to resist. Panic spread among civilians, and governments struggled to maintain order. Amidst the chaos, Ryan pushed forward with his research, determined to uncover the truth behind the Virac's aversion to striped patterns. With Emily Dawson's help, he delved deeper into historical records of Earth's interactions with apex predators, searching for parallels. Emily suggested focusing on ancient myths and legends, believing they might hold clues about encounters between humans and animals that inspired fear. "It's worth a shot," Ryan muttered, scrolling through digital archives. "If there's any connection between Earth's history and theirs, it'll show up somewhere." Hours later, Emily gasped as she stumbled upon something significant. "Look at this," she said, pointing to an article about prehistoric cave paintings found in Asia. The images depicted hunters confronting massive striped beasts, like anything modern science recognized. These aren't ordinary tigers. They're oversized, almost mythical versions. Some researchers believe they were based on real creatures that existed millions of years ago. Ryan leaned closer, studying the illustrations. Could the Virik have encountered something like this? Something that wiped out entire colonies? "It's possible," Emily replied. "If they traveled to Earthor, a planet like it, during their explorations, they might have faced these ancient predators. Losing would leave a scar, both culturally and psychologically." Laura, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "So you're saying their fear isn't just about tigers, it's about extinction, about being hunted to the brink of annihilation." "Exactly," Ryan confirmed. "And that changes everything. If we can tap into that fear, make them think it's happening again, but how?" Ethan interrupted. "They saw through our holograms last time. They'll see right through whatever else we try." Ryan hesitated, then offered a risky proposal. "What if we combine illusion with reality? Use actual animals to enhance the effect. Tigers may not exist naturally near the landing sites, but we can transport them." "You're talking about using live tigers?" Laura asked incredulously. "Not alone," Ryan clarified, "but paired with holograms and sound effects, it could create a convincing illusion. Something so overwhelming they won't question its authenticity." The idea sparked debate among the team. Transporting wild animals into combat zones was fraught with danger not just for the humans involved, but for the animals themselves. Yet time was running out, and desperate times called for desperate measures. After much deliberation, Laura gave the go-ahead, authorizing a covert operation to relocate several Bengal tigers from sanctuaries to secure locations near key landing sites. Meanwhile, Ethan worked tirelessly to prepare the soldiers accompanying the mission. He drilled them on handling large predators safely while maintaining tactical readiness. "These cats are unpredictable," he warned during one training session. "Respect them, but don't let your guard down.
They're weapons now.
Just like your guns." As preparations intensified, Ryan continued analyzing the Virok's language, hoping to refine their strategy further. Hidden within the alien texts, he discovered references to a catastrophic event known as the Eclipse of Shadows. Though vague, the term hinted at a period of widespread destruction caused by striped hunters. Ryan theorized that this event had shaped the Virak's collective psyche, embedding a primal fear of striped predators into their culture. "This is it," Ryan told Laura late one night, his voice trembling with excitement. "The Eclipse of Shadows. That's what we need to recreate an echo of their worst nightmare." Laura nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure it's unforgettable." The day of the operation arrived, bringing with it a mix of anticipation and dread. Teams deployed across multiple landing sites, setting up equipment and releasing the tigers into carefully controlled environments. Holographic projections surrounded the animals, creating the illusion of countless striped predators prowling the area. Sound systems amplified roars and growls, filling the air with an eerie symphony of menace. When the Virak ships descended once again, the scene was set. This time, however, the aliens didn't approach cautiously. Instead, they launched coordinated attacks, deploying drones and energy weapons in an effort to overwhelm human defenses. Soldiers fought back valiantly, relying on guerrilla tactics taught by Ethan to hold their ground. In the heat of battle, the tiger illusion proved devastatingly effective. One group of Virak froze mid-attack, their movements faltering as they processed the sight of massive striped beasts leaping toward them. Even though the tigers themselves remained confined to specific zones, the combination of holograms and real-life presence created a terrifying spectacle that shook the aliens' confidence. For the first time, humanity gained the upper hand, but victory came at a cost. Several soldiers were injured or killed during the skirmishes, and the stress of commanding such high-stakes operations took its toll on Laura and her team. Despite the losses, Morale surged as people realized they weren't entirely powerless against the invaders. As the dust settled and the Virak retreated temporarily, Ryan reflected on the outcome. They had succeeded in exploiting the aliens. Deepest fears, but only barely. The Virak would return, stronger and angrier than ever. Humanity's survival depended on staying one step ahead, constantly adapting and innovating. "We bought ourselves some time," Laura said, as she joined Ryan outside the command center. The horizon glowed faintly with the promise of dawn. "This isn't over." "No," Ryan agreed softly. "It's far from over." Yet in that moment, standing amidst the ruins of conflict, Ryan allowed himself a small measure of hope. Humanity had faced unimaginable odds and found a way to endure. Perhaps, he thought, that resilience, the refusal to give up, was the true essence of what made them worthy adversaries after all. The temporary victory brought by the tiger illusion was bittersweet. The Virak had retreated, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time before they returned with renewed aggression. Humanity's brief triumph had come at great cost, lives lost, sources strained, and wounds both physical and emotional that would take time to heal. Despite this, the operation had proven one crucial thing: the Virak could be rattled. A seemingly invincible facade cracked under the weight of their own fears. Now, the question was how to build on that fragile advantage. Dr. Ryan Carter sat in his makeshift office, staring at the glowing screen of his laptop. The room was quiet, except for the faint hum of equipment and the occasional distant murmur of soldiers outside. His mind raced with possibilities, replaying every detail of the recent encounter. The Virak's reaction to the tiger illusion had been unmistakably primal fear rooted deep within their collective consciousness. But why? What ancient trauma could possibly drive an advanced species like them to such extremes? Ryan scrolled through the data he'd collected, focusing on the references to the eclipse of shadows. The term appeared repeatedly in the alien texts, often accompanied by symbols depicting striped hunters, overwhelming smaller creatures. It wasn't just a historical event. It seemed to carry mythological significance, almost as if the Virak viewed it as a turning point in their evolution. Ryan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. He needed more context, something tangible to connect the dots. "Still stuck on that shadow thing?" Laura Hayes asked, stepping into the room without knocking. Her voice was calm but edged, with urgency, a reflection of the pressure weighing on all of them. "It's not just a shadow," Ryan replied, gesturing toward the screen. "It's a memory, a scar etched into their culture. Something happened, an event so catastrophic it shaped who they are today." Laura crossed her arms, studying the images on the screen. "You think it's tied to those big cats?" "I'm sure of it," Ryan said firmly. "Whatever wiped out their colonies during the eclipse of shadows, it had stripes, and it hunted them relentlessly."
Ow.
Laura frowned. "If we're going to use this against them again, we need to understand exactly what triggered their fear. Right now, we're guessing. Guesswork won't cut it next time." Ryan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We need to dig deeper. Maybe Emily can help us piece together more about Earth's prehistoric predators. If there's any overlap between our history and theirs, it'll show up," Laura agreed, and together they sought out Emily Dawson, who was busy reviewing footage. "Of the tiger operation?" Her eyes lit up when Ryan explained his theory. "It makes sense," she said after a moment. "If the Virak encountered apex predators similar to tigers millions of years ago, it could explain their fixation. Ancient ecosystems were brutal places. Predators ruled supreme, and even intelligent species wouldn't stand a chance unless they adapted quickly." Emily pulled up a digital map showing locations where prehistoric fossils of large carnivores had been discovered. She highlighted regions in Asia and Africa, areas known for housing relics of massive feline-like creatures. These animals weren't just bigger versions of modern tigers, they were apex killers. Imagine facing something like that if you came from a species still learning to survive. Ryan's eyes widened. What if the Virak didn't just lose battles against these predators? What if entire colonies were wiped out? That kind of devastation would leave a mark. That's what I've been saying, Emily replied, distinctionly level. Events shape civilizations. If the Virac went through something like that, it explains their obsession with proving dominance. They don't want to be prey ever again. The realization hit Ryan like a lightning bolt. That's it. We've been thinking about this all wrong. The tiger illusion worked because it tapped into their survival instincts. But if we can recreate the eclipse of shadows, their worst nightmare, we might be able to break them completely. Laura raised an eyebrow. How do we do that? Last time we barely managed to keep the illusion intact. We scale it up, Ryan said, his voice gaining confidence. Instead of a few tigers, we flood the battlefield with them, combine holograms, sound effects, and live animals to create an overwhelming presence. Make them believe they're surrounded by an unstoppable force. It's risky, Laura warned. If they see through it again, they'll crush us. I know, Ryan admitted. But we don't have a choice. Every move they make is calculated to wear us down. If we wait too long, they'll find a way to neutralize our defenses entirely. Ethan Cole joined the discussion later that evening, bringing with him fresh insights from the field. The soldiers are ready for whatever comes next, he said, taking a seat beside Ryan, but morale is shaky. People are scared. They need to believe we can win. We will, Ryan assured him. Not by brute force, but by outsmarting them. By making them doubt everything they thought they knew about us. Over the next several days, the team worked tirelessly to refine their plan. Engineers modified the holographic projectors to generate larger, more realistic illusions. Sound. Designers layered recordings of roars, snarls, and thunderous footsteps to mimic the chaos of a predator stampede. Meanwhile, arrangements were made to transport additional tigers from wildlife sanctuaries to key locations near Virac Landing. Sites. Ethan led training sessions focused on integrating the animals into combat scenarios safely. These cats aren't soldiers, he reminded the troops. They're tools. Treat them with respect, but stay alert. One wrong move, and your dinner. As preparations neared completion, Ryan turned his attention to another critical aspect of the strategy: psychological warfare. Using the AI program, he crafted a message designed to exploit the Virac's deepest fears, drawing on the language patterns he'd decoded. He constructed a narrative suggesting that humanity was descended from the very predators, responsible for the eclipse of shadows. The message implied that humans carried the same instincts and abilities as their ancestors, capable of unleashing destruction on a galactic scale. This is bold, Laura said as she reviewed the draft. Do you really think they'll buy it? They have to, Ryan replied. Their fear isn't rational, it's visceral. If we plant the seed of doubt, they'll start questioning their own superiority. On the eve of the operation, the team gathered in the command center for a final briefing. Tension filled the air as everyone prepared for what might be their last stand. Ryan addressed the group, his tone steady despite the storm brewing inside him. We've done everything we can to tip the odds in our favor, he began. But remember, this isn't just about winning a battle. It's about proving we deserve to exist. Show them we're not easy prey. Show them we're survivors. Laura stepped forward, her voice cutting through the silence. But tomorrow we face the unknown. But we face it together. No matter what happens, humanity stands united. The words resonated deeply, bolstering spirits among the weary soldiers and scientists. As the meeting adjourned, each person returned to their post. With renewed determination, sleep eluded most that night. But fatigue was pushed aside by adrenaline and resolve. When dawn broke, the battlefield was eerily quiet. Soldiers took their positions, hidden behind natural cover or concealed within fortified structures.
Holographic.
Projectors buzzed softly as they powered up, casting lifelike images of prowling tigers across the landscape. Speakers crackled to life, filling the air with the ominous sounds of predators on the hunt. Then, as expected, the Virac ships descended once more. This time, however, the aliens approached with visible hesitation. Their movements lacked the confidence they'd shown before, replaced by cautious probing. When the first wave of drones emerged, the tiger illusion sprang into action. Dozens of striped beasts materialized around the perimeter, their forms shifting seamlessly between hologram and reality. Roars echoed deafeningly, drowning out the hum of alien machinery. The Virak froze, their multifaceted eyes darting frantically as they processed the scene. For a moment, it seemed they might retreat entirely, but then their leader, a towering figure named Zrichther, emitted a piercing screech that shattered the tension. With deliberate precision, he signaled his forces to advance, unwilling to yield to fear. Ryan watched from a safe distance, his heart pounding. "You go," he whispered. As the battle erupted, humanity fought with everything they had. Used guerrilla tactics to harass the Virak, striking swiftly and disappearing before retaliation could land. The tiger illusion held firm, its sheer scale overwhelming even Zrichther's resolve. Yet the alien leader refused to falter, rallying his troops with guttural commands that reverberated across the battlefield. Despite the chaos, Ryan noticed something remarkable. The Virak's movements were slower, less coordinated. Their usual efficiency gave way to uncertainty, as though their instincts were warring with their logic. The tiger illusion wasn't just frightening them, it was destabilizing them. For hours, the fight raged on. Slowly but surely, humanity gained ground. The Virak's formations crumbled, their once unstoppable force reduced to disarray. Even Zrichther seemed shaken, his posture betraying a flicker of doubt. Finally, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the tide turned decisively. The remaining Virak ships withdrew, retreating into the sky with a mournful hum. Silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the ragged breathy. The aftermath of the battle left the battlefield eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of damaged equipment and the distant calls of the tigers still pacing in their enclosures. Soldiers moved cautiously among the ruins, checking for signs of lingering threats, while medical teams tended to the wounded. The air smelled of scorched metal and damp earth, a grim reminder of the violence that had unfolded. Despite the fatigue weighing heavily on everyone, there was a palpable sense of relief, mixed with disbelief, that humanity had managed to hold its ground. Dr. Ryan Carter stood near the edge of the battlefield, his hands shoved into the pockets of his coat as he stared at the horizon. The Virak ships were long gone, disappearing into the sky like ghosts retreating into shadow. But Ryan knew better than anyone that this wasn't an end, it was merely a pause. The aliens' withdrawal felt less like surrender and more like regrouping. They would return angrier and more determined than before. And when they did, humanity would need to be ready. Laura Hayes approached him, her boots crunching softly against the dirt. She looked exhausted, her face streaked with grime and sweat, but her eyes remained sharp and focused. "We got lucky," she said bluntly, stopping beside him. "Don't let it go to your head." Ryan nodded slowly. "I know. This isn't over. Not by a long shot." "Slightly. They're not invincible. Their fear can be used against them. It gives us an edge if we play our cards right." "That's assuming they don't adapt," Ryan replied, his voice tinged with unease. "They're smart. They figure out how we trick them this time. They'll come up with countermeasures," Laura finished for him, which means we need to stay one step ahead. Always. Ethan Cole joined them moments later, carrying a rifle slung over his shoulder. His rugged features bore the marks of stress, but his expression was resolute. "The troops did good out there," he said, nodding toward the soldiers milling about. "But morale is shaky. People are starting to wonder if we can actually win this thing." "We have to make them believe," Ryan said firmly. "If we lose faith now, we've already lost." Ethan gave him a skeptical look. "Faith won't stop those ships from coming back." "No," Ryan admitted, "but ingenuity might. We've proven we can exploit their fears. Now we need to double down on that." As the three of them discussed next steps, reports began pouring in from other landing sites. The Virak hadn't retreated everywhere. They were testing defenses globally, probing for weaknesses. Some areas had held firm thanks to tactics inspired by Ethan's training and Ryan's research. Others hadn't fared so well. Entire towns had been reduced to rubble, their populations scattered or worse. The scale of destruction was staggering, stark reminder of just how outmatched humanity truly was. Back at the command center, Ryan pored over fresh data streaming in from satellites and reconnaissance drones. He noticed a pattern. the Virak, seemed particularly aggressive near regions where tiger illusions had failed earlier. It was almost as though they were deliberately targeting those areas, perhaps seeking revenge for being deceived. Ryan frowned, tapping his pen against the desk absent-mindedly. Something about their behavior didn't add up. "What are you thinking?" Emily Dawson asked, appearing in the doorway with a clipboard in hand. She had spent much of the past few days analyzing the biological aspects of the Virak's physiology, hoping to uncover vulnerabilities that could aid the fight. "They're learning," Ryan muttered. "Every time we use the tiger illusion, they adjust. They're adapting faster than I thought possible." Emily nodded gravely. "That's what apex predators do. They evolve to overcome challenges. If we keep relying on the same tricks, they'll find ways to neutralize them." "Then we need new tricks," Ryan said, leaning forward. "Something they won't see coming." Emily hesitated, then offered a suggestion. "What if we focus less on scaring them and more on confusing them, make them question their own senses? If they can't trust what they're seeing or hearing, they'll hesitate. Hesitation buys us time." Ryan considered the idea, his mind racing with possibilities. Confusion could indeed be a powerful weapon, especially against a species that prided itself on dominance and precision. But implementing such a strategy required careful planning and resources they might not have. Before he could respond, Laura entered the room, her expression grim. "We've got trouble," she announced. One of the Virak leaders issued a direct challenge. "They want a champion to face them in single combat." Ryan blinked in surprise. "Single combat? Why?" "It's part of their culture," Laura explained. "A test of strength and cunning. If we refuse, they'll consider it an act of cowardice and escalate their attacks. If we accept, well, it's risky, but it might buy us more time." Ethan stepped forward, his jaw tightening. "I'll do it," Ryan said immediately. "It's suicide, and doing nothing is any better." Ethan shot back. "Look around, Ryan. We're running out of options. If taking one of them down personally gives us a chance to breathe, I'm willing to risk it." Laura placed a hand on Ethan's arm, her voice calm but firm. "He's right. We can't afford to ignore this, but we'll prepare you as best we can. Use everything we've learned to give you an edge." Over the next 24 hours, the team worked tirelessly to equip Ethan for the duel. Engineers designed lightweight armor reinforced with materials capable of withstanding energy blasts. Technicians programmed portable holographic devices to project tiger-like illusions around him during the fight, creating the impression of multiple attackers. Sound engineers crafted audio tracks mimicking roars and growls, ensuring the psychological impact would be as potent as the physical threat. Meanwhile, Ryan analyzed every scrap of information he had on the Virak's combat style. Based on observations from previous encounters, he identified patterns in their movements and attack sequences. He shared these insights with Ethan, who practiced dodging and countering simulated strikes in a makeshift training arena. "You can't beat them with brute force," Ryan emphasized during one session. "You have to outthink them, use their instincts against them." Ethan nodded, his determination unwavering. "I'll make them regret picking a fight with us." On the morning of the duel, the atmosphere was tense. Soldiers and civilians gathered at a safe distance, watching as Ethan stepped onto the designated battlegrounder. Barren wasteland chosen by the Virak for its lack of cover. Above them, alien ships hovered ominously, broadcasting the event across the galaxy. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Failure meant not only Ethan's death, but also a declaration of humanity's weakness. Richter, the towering insectoid leader of the Virak delegation, emerged from his ship with slow, deliberate steps. His exoskeleton gleamed menacingly under the sun, and his multifaceted eyes reflected light like shards of glass. He carried no visible weapons, relying instead on his natural claws and enhanced strength. As he approached Ethan, he emitted a low hum that resonated through the ground, sound both eerie and intimidating. Ethan stood his ground, his posture relaxed, yet alert. Around him, the holographic tiger projections flickered to life, surrounding him with ghostly striped forms. Speakers crackled to life, filling the air with guttural roars. Richter paused, his gaze shifting between the illusions and the humans standing defiantly before him. "This is your champion?" the alien leader asked, his voice transmitted through a translator device. "A fragile creature, hiding behind tricks?" Ethan smirked, gripping the clawed gloves Ryan had provided. "Tricks are just tools. Let's see if you can handle them." That, the duel began. Zrichther lunged forward, his movements swift and precise. Ethan sidestepped narrowly, using agility to evade the blow. The tiger illusions swarmed around the alien leader, forcing him to divide his attention. Each time he turned to strike at one of the phantom predators, Ethan darted in, landing calculated hits with his clawed gloves. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the battle unfolded. For a brief moment, it seemed Ethan might actually stand a chance. But Zrichther was no ordinary opponent. His reflexes sharpened as he adapted to the distractions, dismissing the holograms as mere illusions. With a deafening roar, he unleashed a devastating blast of energy, sending Ethan sprawling to the ground. Ryan clenched his fists, his heart pounding. "Get up," he whispered under his breath. Ethan struggled to his feet, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. Pain radiated through his body, but he refused to yield. Summoning every ounce of strength, he triggered a cascade of holograms depicting multiple tigers circling Zrichther. Roars echoed deafeningly, overwhelming the alien's senses. In a rare moment of hesitation, Zrichther faltered, giving Ethan the opening he needed. With a final burst of speed, Ethan closed the distance between them, driving his claws into a vulnerable spot on Zrichther's torso. The alien staggered backward, letting out a piercing screech. Though injured, Zrichther remained standing, his multifaceted eyes narrowing in fury. "You fight well for prey," he growled, his voice laced with begrudging respect. "But this is not the end." The duel concluded, the Virac ships withdrew. Once more, leaving humanity with a fragile reprieve, Ethan limped back to his teammates, battered but alive. Laura embraced him briefly, her relief evident despite her stoic demeanor.